Commander Zethkri had conquered 17 worlds across the galactic arm. His hegemony fleet had crushed the crystalline warriors of Vex Prime, enslaved the hive minds of the Outer Rings, and reduced the proud maritime cities of Aquatica to smoldering ruins. Each conquest had followed the same predictable pattern: overwhelming orbital bombardment, ground assault, capitulation within hours. Earth was supposed to be no different. Primitive chemical propulsion, sneered Navigation Officer Yiltan as their massive dreadnoughts descended through Earth's atmosphere. No energy shields, no plasma weapons. Intelligence reports they still fight with projectile weapons and combustion engines. The fleet had chosen their landing site strategically. The region called Texas appeared to be a major population center with abundant resources and infrastructure. Wide open spaces perfect for establishing a command base. The indigenous population would scatter in terror, as they always did. The first sign something was wrong came when the humans didn't scatter. As the lead dreadnought touched down in a field outside a settlement called Lubbock, Zethkri watched his tactical display with growing confusion. Instead of fleeing, the local humans were gathering, moving toward their position, in large numbers. "Sir," reported Tactical Officer Primdal, "I'm detecting numerous wheeled vehicles approaching from multiple directions. They appear to be heavily modified." Through the bridge's viewing portal, Zethkri observed the strangest war party he'd ever encountered. Massive wheeled vehicles with oversized tires roared across the terrain, their occupants whooping and firing primitive projectile weapons into the air. Some vehicles had been modified with improvised armor plating, welded spikes and mounted weapon systems that defied all tactical logic. "Are those recreational vehicles?" asked Yiltan, studying the sensor readings. "Sir, many of these humans appear to be consuming ethanol-based intoxicants while operating heavy machinery." The first attack came from a vehicle that appeared to be a farming implement. The massive machine, operated by a human wearing what intelligence identified as overalls, crashed directly into their forward sentry post. Instead of dying in the collision, the human emerged from the wreckage, produced another projectile weapon, and began shooting while making aggressive vocalizations. "What is he saying?" demanded Zethkri. The translator crackled. "I believe he's expressing romantic affection for something called Texas and questioning our parentage, sir." The situation deteriorated rapidly. The hegemony's advanced energy weapons proved remarkably ineffective against an enemy that used improvised armor, made from discarded metal sheeting, and what appeared to be agricultural equipment. Worse, the humans seemed to consider warfare a form of entertainment. "Sir," called Primdal, "sensors show approximately 3,000 humans converging on our position. They're bringing what appears to be a festival." Indeed, as Zethkri watched in growing horror, the human assault force had somehow organized itself into what could only be described as a siege celebration. Massive wheeled vehicles formed battle lines while other humans set up cooking stations, producing vast quantities of food and more intoxicating beverages. Music, aggressive, incomprehensible music, blared from improvised sound systems. The cooking smoke alone confused their atmospheric processors. Day 2 brought reinforcements, on both sides. Zethkri had called in the second wave, confident that additional firepower would end this embarrassing resistance. Instead, he found that news of the invasion had somehow attracted humans from across the planet. His intelligence officers reported massive migrations of humans traveling toward Texas specifically to participate in what they kept calling the alien BBQ. "Sir," reported Yiltan nervously, "long-range scans show humans arriving via aircraft, ground vehicles, and what appears to be improvised rocket sleds." The new arrivals brought increasingly bizarre weapons. A group from a place called Louisiana had constructed what they proudly called a gator launcher. Humans from Florida arrived with creatures that seemed to be armored predators, which they rode into battle while screaming. The ones from Alaska had somehow weaponized their weather manipulation devices, creating localized blizzards that interfered with hegemony sensors. But it was the locals, the Texans, who proved most troublesome. They had quickly realized that hegemony energy shields were calibrated to deflect high-energy plasma bolts, not primitive chemical explosives wrapped in metal casings and launched from modified agricultural equipment. A human operating something called a potato cannon had managed to breach their primary defensive perimeter using what appeared to be explosive vegetables. "This is impossible," muttered Zethkri as he watched a human in primitive protective gear ride a four-wheeled vehicle directly up the ramp of a hegemony dropship while brandishing two projectile weapons and emitting what the translator identified as whoops of joy. Day 3 began with a food shortage. Somehow the humans had managed to disrupt hegemony supply lines not through sophisticated military tactics, but by accidentally damaging key infrastructure while engaged in what they called muddin and monster truck rallies. Half the fleet's communication array had been destroyed when a human in an oversized vehicle had attempted to jump it, apparently for entertainment purposes. "Sir," reported Primdal, his voice strained. "The humans they've organized. They're bringing siege weapons." What manner of siege weapons could these primitives possibly? Zethkri's question was answered by the appearance of what the humans proudly called Big Bertha, a massive projectile weapon constructed from welded oil drilling equipment and operated by a crew of humans who had painted their faces and were consuming dangerous quantities of stimulants. The projectile, which appeared to be a modified explosive device wrapped in local sporting equipment, struck their command ship's secondary hull. The damage was minimal, but the psychological effect on his troops was devastating. They had been trained to face plasma cannons and molecular disruptors, not humans who treated warfare as an excuse for a community gathering. That afternoon, a delegation of humans approached under what appeared to be a flag of truce. They carried containers of food and beverages, which they offered to share while discussing terms. "We don't want no trouble," explained their apparent leader, a female human wearing protective headgear adorned with the local star symbol. "But y'all picked the wrong state to mess with. Now, we're willing to call this whole thing even if you boys pack up and head on home. We'll even throw in some brisket for the road." Zethkri stared at his tactical display. His invasion force, the pride of the hegemony fleet, was surrounded by several thousand humans operating improvised war machines, many of whom appeared to be having the time of their lives. His supply lines were disrupted, his communications were compromised, and his troops were requesting transfer to less dangerous assignments. Through the bridge viewport, he could see humans setting up what appeared to be an enormous cooking apparatus, while others engaged in ritualistic combat, involving the manipulation of spherical objects with their feet. Someone had constructed a primitive sound amplification system that was broadcasting what the translator identified as country music at volumes that registered on military sensors. "Sir?" asked Yiltan quietly. "Your orders?" Zethkri looked at his invasion fleet, then at the humans, then at the tactical situation that no military academy in the galaxy could have prepared him for. "Open a channel," he said wearily. "All frequencies." "Commander Zethkri to the humans of Texas," he began, the words tasting of defeat and barbecue smoke. "The hegemony fleet formally requests negotiations for our peaceful withdrawal from your territory." The response came immediately, broadcast on primitive radio waves and accompanied by what sounded like several thousand humans cheering, "Well, it's about damn time, y'all. Come on down for some ribs." The hegemony's military historians would later classify the Battle of Texas as a Category 7 cultural anomaly and recommend against any future military engagement with species that considered warfare a social activity. Zethkri kept the barbecue sauce recipe, though. It was honestly pretty good.